Hello and welcome to the England Summer Review from the RFU and O2. We've got a full wrap of the key moments that shaped England rugby's summer as England toured Australia and gained their first win since 2003. And we've got more than just rugby on the show today. We take a look at behind the scenes to see how players relax on tour. Well, I'm delighted to say that joining me in the O2 box here at Twickenham today is a man who knows a thing or two about winning tests on tour. It is, of course, the former England centre, Will Greenwood. Welcome, Will. Well, Will is going to be incredibly busy because not only is he going to give us his expert analysis on the performances, he's also going to give us an insight into what it's like being a player on tour with England. Then he's going to look into the crystal ball as we discuss the upcoming Investec Challenge Series. And then he's sitting down with the elite director of rugby, Rob Andrew, for an exclusive interview.
It's only the third ever win in Australia, and the only other two wins were by the World Cup winning side, as you know, June 2003 and November 2003.
Well, welcome, Will. And I guess the first question I want to ask you is, how are you feeling after England's tour to Australia?
Oh, it's a tremendous sense of optimism. We've gone down to Australia, we got turned over in the first test, but then we picked up the all-important victory on Southern Hemisphere soil. The ability to enjoy your summer as a player and as a coach, but come back with a real sense of optimism.
Well, we're going to hear from Will again in just a sec, but before we do, let's remind ourselves of what happened on England's tour down under. In the first test against Australia in Perth, England got their tour off to a disappointing start. Wallabies fly half, Quade Cooper called the shots. This his first of two tries as Australia dominated early on. England did have some positives. The scrum were totally dominant, but despite two second-half penalty tries, the second of which brought the visitors to within 4 points, the Australians ran out 27-17 winners. A week later in Sydney, Martin Johnson handed first England starts to Courtney Lawes and Ben Youngs. And the young Leicester scrum half didn't disappoint as he turned in a man-of-the-match winning performance, scoring a superb individual try which gave the tourists an early lead. Australia stayed in touch thanks to two Matt Giteau tries, but a late Johnny Wilkinson penalty gave England only their third ever test win over Australia in Australia. England finished the tour with an unofficial third test against the New Zealand Maori in Napier. And the visitors had a blistering first 40 minutes as three tries from Stefan Armitage, Danny Kerr and Chris Ashton gave England a 28-17 half-time lead. But the Maori hit back in the second period as winger Jose Gear completed his hat-trick of tries and England failed to score another point. England then ended the tour on a losing note, going down 35-28. So, well, a losing note to finish the tour on, but as you said at the top of the show, there is a lot of optimism to be taken from these three or two tests and one unofficial test.
Yeah, absolutely. The sense of belief can never be underestimated in any sort of sport. To go away, to pick off sides who are ranked above you on their home soil, sides who have genuine beliefs of winning the World Cup is massively important. It's just the sort of scalp that Martin Johnson and his coaching staff and the players needed to come back from that first test where at times they were poor. It wasn't a great game to watch. It wouldn't have been a great video to have gone through with the players. I know Martin Johnson in his post-match interview was very, very disappointed. He doesn't mind if they lose when they play well. To come back the following week and produce a performance of pace and precision was hugely inspiring, I think is the right word to use. They inspired a rugby nation into us genuinely believing now that they can kick on from here. And I thought the first 40 minutes against the Maoris was probably a better performance than the test team. And that's what you need. You need players constantly raising the bar. I've got the jersey, I'm going to go to here. Someone who wants the jersey raises it to there. And that's what Johnson has to have. He's had a year of picking 10 or 12 players that he's had selection problems with and too many issues. And now he's got a choice. He's got 25, 30 players who are saying, I want that England jersey. And it's the opposite of a vicious circle now. It spreads and it's contagious.
So overall, do you think Rob Andrew will be happy with what happened in Australia?
Yeah, he'd like to think so. Be happier than he has been. I mean, I've interviewed him a couple of times before when the old tin hat's been on and the shells have been going off and he's been under pressure. And quite rightly so, he's in charge of making sure the England team perform at the very highest level. And for the past 18 months, they haven't done that.
Well, before we see if Rob Andrew has his tin hat on when Will speaks to him, a tour needs to be fun and players need to relax. How do they do it? well, we were given behind-the-scenes access when England were in Australia.
You looking forward to swimming with the Sharks?
Yeah, it's good. You know, we've got the day off today, so it'd be a shame not to sort of come out and experience a few different things. You know, you don't want to stay in your hotel room all day, so we had a few options of walking the Sydney Harbour Bridge or coming here or playing a bit of golf or something. So a few of the boys have opted for the shark dive, so it should be good.
I'm just going to go through a few things, make sure that you're all paying attention. Okay, first of all, big deal. If you see me doing that down there, guys, it's because I want to know if you're okay, so give me the okay signal back.
How we feeling, Chris? Confident, ready to go?
Not really, no.
How's the water in there, nice?
It's freezing, mate. I'm northern as well, and it's normally warm.
Check how close this one is. Yeah, he knows it's there.
That was unbelievable, one of the best experiences I've ever had. Just to be up so close to all the sharks and the manta rays with all the boys underwater was amazing, yeah.
So, Will, ever been tempted to feed sharks?
Yeah, for about a millisecond, and then I was a coward on a rugby field, so certainly not going to get in a cage or a tank with a shark because I believe they're quite unreliable animals and can possibly eat you. So any vocation or hobby that involves being eaten, I tend to stay away from. But you've got to stick together when times turn tough, and they will turn tough on tours. And when that happens, you've got to have done experiences together that gives you a common bond, so that when it happens on a rugby field and you're wearing that England jersey, you have this affiliation to guys who've gone 12,000 miles away from home and left their families and are ready to do battle with each other.
Well, as we said earlier in the programme, Will caught up with Director of Elite Rugby, Rob Andrew, earlier today. Let's see what he had to say.
Well, Rob, thank you for joining us as Elite Rugby Director after what has been a largely successful tour of the Southern Hemisphere. Can you give us an overview of that successful tour, but also perhaps look back at some of the challenges and some of the progress that has been made throughout this season?
Yeah, how long have you got?
About 2.5 minutes.
Is that all? I think to put into context the tour, the second test, it's only the third ever win in Australia. And the only other two wins were by the World Cup winning side, as you know, June 2003 and November 2003. So I think that puts the win in Australia into context. For me, the other thing, which is pretty significant, is that of the starting 15, 6 of those players have debuted this season. So at the end of your first season, to have won a test match in Australia in your debut season is pretty impressive.
Moving it forward to the Investec Internationals here in November, I mean, it's a cracking schedule. I don't know who put it together, but you want to test yourself against the best, here we go. So what can they take forward from this summer? What must they maintain at those high levels? And what can we look forward to in terms of continuing this building process towards 2011?
Well, I think the first thing and the most important thing in international rugby is belief. What I mean by belief is the belief that they can go and play at this level. You know, international rugby, as you well know, is about getting all aspects of the game right. And I think what they've shown in the last few weeks is that they can do all the bits of the game.
What we're saying is we can get to a stage of the England team that the belief that flooded through the team 15 minutes into the second test match, we as a team, as a fan, can now expect to see that belief flooding through from minute one.
Deep down, the only player, the only person who can really believe is the bloke who's sat in the dressing room as he's about to run out. And I think that's beginning to happen with some of these younger guys.
A fascinating interview there with Rob Andrew, and as Rob said, the England Saxons were on tour in the United States, but they weren't the only ones. The under-20s were also in action at the Under-20 World Championship. The Saxons were in the USA for the Churchill Cup, looking to regain the trophy they lost to Ireland A last year. They made light work of their group, running in 7 tries against Russia, including this one from Luke Narroway, And in their second game, they sailed past the USA 32-9, Tom Varndell scoring 2 of England's 4 tries as they won the group and booked themselves a place in the final against Canada. In the final, England took early control, leading 17-0 when Alex Goode went over and Stephen Myler converted. It was a lead they were to control to the end as they lifted the Churchill Cup for the 5th time. As for the under-20s, they were in Rosario, Argentina, as they looked to try and go one step further than their runner-up finishes in the last 2 editions of the Under-20 World Championships. Things started well as they won their first 2 group games against Argentina and Ireland, where Freddie Burns ran in 2 tries, which meant that when England beat France in their final group game, the under-20s were in the semi-finals. Just like the elite squad, the under-20s faced Australia for a place in the final, but it wasn't to be, as a young Australia squad played some outstanding rugby, highlighted by this superb solo effort from Kimami Sitauti to beat England 28-16. The under-20s finished up in 4th place after defeat to South Africa in the 3rd fourth playoff match.
And so to England's next challenge, the Investec Internationals. And Will, I guess the question I want to ask you first, are there any specific players that we should be looking out for?
Well, after the summer tour, I think you've got to go through the whole side and look at the units and look at the choices Martin Johnson will have in front of him come November. You start in the front row, there's Payne, there's Thompson had a great, it looked like a Harley Davidson ready for his Route 66 thing he was going to do on the bike. And obviously Dan Cole, there's players that are coming back, Dylan Hartley. And there's all these players who will find that September and October so crucial, because come September and October you are 1 year from a World Cup. England haven't pushed themselves into favourites role, but they pushed themselves into a situation where November can be looked forward to rather than feared, and for too long we've feared the autumn series.
Well, we'll have to wait and see if they can back up this summer tour. That's all we've got time for today. My thanks to Will Greenwood for joining me here at Twickenham, and we'll see you again soon. Goodbye.